Turkey was a hard chapter for us because, first of all, we didn't really have that many people on the committee that knew that much about turkeys because everybody was doing chicken stuff predominantly. And, and we tried a modeling approach, and despite some great effort from Dr. Sakamura, we just couldn't get it put together. So we had to do it by the old-fashioned way, doing an empirical approach, and so that's where we ended up. But the literature's pretty thin, as you might imagine. There's not a lot of people that have enough guts to work with turkeys, and so there's just not a lot out there. For example, and what is out there is not always the best stuff to work with. What we found is that most of the experiments were done using total amino acid bases, but there were some good experiments out there using digestible amino acid bases, but there were not enough experiments out there on digestible amino acids to actually do any requirements, not even for lysine. So what we did is we back calculated those that use digestible amino acids to total amino acid bases so we include them with the other studies that were on total amino acids. But for all those digestible amino acid papers, we summarized the digestible amino acid levels in those diets so you can kind of go back and forth and know as you start moving to digestible amino acids that know what's out there. For the requirements, I'm going to show you some tables, and they're in the same format as the tables you've seen before. So the values that we have some confidence in are in a normal font, and they represent the minimum recommendations. The values in bold italics are guidance, and they're guidance because there just wasn't enough studies. You can't take an average of one and come up with a requirement. But if you have one good study, you can call it a guidance because we have something to go on. It's better than nothing. And the values shaded in shaded areas are from the 94 NRC. So the first one I'm showing you is amino acids. And you can see that not many amino acid requirements are changed. They're almost all from the old report, with the exception of lysine here. And my arrows are smaller than Rose's, I hate to tell you. And most of the, at least in the early phase, the requirement was shown to be a little bit lower. And when I say a little bit, just because you have a blue arrow going down, a lot of times it was just 1 or 2% change, or we added an extra digit to it. So don't think that there's major changes in amino acids unless I tell you, and I'm not going to tell you that. So we got some studies on methionine, raised it a little bit, some studies on methionine plus cysteine, and those went down a little bit. But again, it was mostly a little bit. Same with threonine, and one in the early phase for valine. So we do have some changes there. We have some changes in calcium and non-phytate phosphorus. They were small also, but they were pretty solid changes. I mean, we felt pretty comfortable because this is an area where there's a fair amount of research. Sodium we reduced, zinc we reduced a little bit. Selenium we increased, and unlike everybody else on this committee that's shown you tables, I've got 2 dots because I'm more significant than anybody else. And the 2 dots means it was more than a 10% change. In the case of selenium, it was more than a 25% change. In the case of selenium, it's up to a number that the FDA is not going to be real happy about because it's above what they recommend for human health. So we have to resolve that with the FDA. Vitamin E went down a little bit. Niacin up a little bit. For all of the recommendations we made for every single chapter, we have a follow-up table that shows every single study that we used and for all these different nutrients. And we describe the weight range that they went through, the estimated requirements, the response criteria, the strain and sex, the number of levels, and the range of levels, and various other comments that are needed to understand the results. And of course the reference, and if you want more information, you can go get it yourself. So I've got to cover some more species in the time I have, so I'm going to leave turkeys here and move to the next one.